So I have recently been reading more history books because I want to learn more about world history, but like not just whitewashed white people history. Like, so last year I went to Cambodia, and before I went to Cambodia, my parents went the year before, and my dad was reading a book about Cambodia, this one, and I'm still reading it. I'm 3 chapters in. I read it on the train, so I don't get to read much, and the printing is so small that I have to be like this. I have bad eyesight, as you can see. So I'm on the train, and I'm just like, and I only got like 10 minutes on the train, so I can't read much. Like, I'm like, oh, it's only like 300 pages, but the print is so small. I don't know if I've got to do it on a page that's not my bookmark, and it is like the printing is so small. I feel like in a lot of like fiction books, the printing is bigger. Maybe I'm still reading that. It's good. It's good. I went to Cambodia last year. I loved Cambodia. I learned about Cambodia's genocide during my bachelor's degree. I did criminological psychology, and we studied and how you get to how a society progresses to a. I mean, in British schools you learn about the Holocaust. I went to Dachau. Going to Dachau was hard because you hear all these things about like, the concentration camps and going to them, and you were seeing them in person. You read about them, you look at photos, you look at videos. Okay, they're bad, they're dark, but then you go to these places and it feels very different. You go to these places and there's just this heavy feeling on you, like it weighs down on you. That was how I felt when I went to Dachau. I was 15 or 16 at the time I went to Dachau. I think now, if I had the chance, I would go to Poland and I would visit Auschwitz and Auschwitz-Birkenau to see what it is that we learn about in school. I mean, I went to lots of places in Berlin and Germany, lots of places in Berlin and Munich, went to Nuremberg to learn more about the history as it happened. But I want to be able to do that now as an adult and go to these places and learn from the people, and that's what I did in Cambodia. I went to Tuol Sleng. I'm sorry if the pronunciation's off. This was Tuol Sleng Genocide Museum. Was the place where Cambodians and Vietnamese, and even I think there was other people too. That was where they were tortured, interrogated, and eventually sent away to Choeng, which is the killing field. Tuol Sleng originally was called S21 during the Khmer Rouge and the genocide. It's no longer known as S21. I learned a lot from my tour guide when I was there. She was so good. She was incredible. And I was like, so what do you call it now? And she said, we do not refer to it as S21 anymore. That was when it was part of the genocide. Now it is the Genocide Museum, it is Tuol Sleng, and now the killing field is Choeng. But I don't think that one's name changed. When I was there, I went last year in August, and I brought this book with me to Cambodia. I was going to read it before Cambodia, I was going to read it when I was in Cambodia. I'm only reading it now a year later. And I had the most amazing tour guide. She was incredible at answering all my questions. I had many questions and she told me everything. She didn't hold back. And so I set out really early in the morning that day for that tour. And she was like, this is a very early tour. I was like, that's fine. She's like, the museum is not open at the moment. What is open is the killing field. I was like, okay. She was like, you don't mind you don't mind going there first? And she was like, no, that's fine. I was like, that's fine. So we went to the killing field first, and we were the only ones there. There was no one else. There was people cleaning, like sweeping the leaves off the ground. There were people cleaning the glass of the memorial that's there. And we were the only, well, I was the only tourist. Is that the right word for a place like that? And we were the only tour group. It was just me, so tour pair. And so I got to see it without any interruptions, which it was this heavy feeling, again, this really heavy feeling. And like, you learn statistics. You learn that 2 to 3 million Cambodians were killed in this genocide, which was like a massive percentage of the population. This happened 70s, wasn't it? So I got to spend all this time going around Choeng, and I got to spend a lot of time asking her questions and listening and learning. And in the middle, there's this massive building. It's this 4-walled glass building. And it has levels. And on each level is skulls. And you can go in and you can go see them. And on one level it will tell you the age of these people. And it's like, 5-year-olds, 10-year-olds, 15, 20, up to 60, 70, even more, I think. And then there was the next level, and it tells you how they were killed. And it's not just one will say a bullet to the skull, and one will say a farming hoe was hit into the back of the head, and the next one will say palm tree leaves. And I held one of these palm tree leaves. They are sharp. The palm tree is a massive part of Cambodian culture, from what I remember. They use everything. They use the trunk for their boats, they use the palm leaves for their roofs, they use the stick of the palm leaf to help dig, I think, was one. And then they use the palm fruits to eat, and when it goes off they can make an ice cream or a cake or something. They use 100% of this palm tree. And then you learn that they were killed by it too. And you hold this palm stick in your hand, and it's heavy for a leaf, and it has little jagged teeth edges on it. My tour guide very gently hit me with this, very gently, and you can feel the little teeth on it biting, the little bite of those jagged edges. So I couldn't imagine what the Cambodians went through. And going back to this building, you just look up and it's just skull upon skull upon skull upon skull. And you're and then you realize that it's 4 sides. So you've only seen one side, and it's already massive. It's already so tall, and there's already so many skulls, and there are more to see. And then you walk around, and you might see bones in the ground. And the tour guides will tell the people there that there are bones, so that they can be put to rest. In Cambodian culture, if I remember, they want to be able to give a proper burial or a proper send-off to the bones, so that the soul can rest, and that the family are at peace too. I may have gotten that wrong, please correct me if I did, but that's what I've read from this book and what my guide told me. And so to think that tens, if not hundreds of thousands of these people haven't had that, and the families haven't had that. And I remember reading that a lot of families are still waiting, and when there's new bones dug up, they're hoping it's them, but they don't know. And you go around and you keep walking around, and the field is bigger than you think it will be. And you come across one pit, and I'll say a burial pit, the killing pit, and then it'll be the biggest killing pit that was found, and it's 400 bodies, 450 bodies, and this pit is massive. and it's like 450, I think. I can give a photo. And then next to it is this tree. And this tree is where children were killed. Their heads were bashed against the tree. And that made me cry. I'm a teacher. The kids that were killed in Cambodia, I have taught so many age groups now. And anytime I hear of children being killed, it makes me think of my students, and I just remember crying. And like, my tour guide just let me cry. She was like, I understand. Like, I understand why you look. And she's like, you're not the first to cry here. And I was like, it's a very emotional thing. And then you kind of go past this other tree, and it's got these little berries. And these berries, both, if you have like half of it, if you have half of it, you are fine. You'll be okay. Like, it's really good at healing, like, medicine. It's like a medicine. It's like really good at healing like a cold or whatever. But only if you have like half or a quarter of it. But if you eat the whole thing, it will kill you. And so some of the people were given the berries. And that was the killing field. And then I went to Tuol Sleng. It was hard. It was worth learning. It was needed to be learned. Humans must learn from their history so that we don't repeat it. We shouldn't repeat it. But we do repeat it. We repeat it constantly. And we continuously mess up and fail. It's so close to civilization, this museum. What was S21? Like, when I remember Dachau wasn't as close. It was like still in the region, but away. And then Tuol Sleng, there are so many buildings around it. But by that point, Phnom Penh wasn't filled with civilians. Like, they had been told to leave by the Khmer Rouge. And you go into Tuol Sleng, and my amazing tour guide took me around each building that we could go. And she told me what it was, what would happen. And I read it in this book too. But so far that part was very short. It was a page or two at most. But this is more about the development, I think, of Cambodia. And you learn about the A block, where certain political prisoners were kept. And they're given a bed frame and a very hard pillow. And on the wall, there is pictures of the torture that these people went through. And they are blurred. For good reason. They are blurred. You look around the room, and there are these brown, reddish marks on the walls, and the floor, and the ceiling. And you don't notice them until your tour guide tells you. We went in the first room, and I was looking around, and I was like, this is horrific. And she was like, oh, and have a look at the floor. I was like, oh. And then she's like, look at the ceiling, and look at the walls. And I was like, is that? And she's like, it's blood. It's blood from the... And then you go into the next room, and the next one, and the next one, and you see it. It's the first thing that pops out at you is this blood on the walls and the ceiling and the floor, and these pictures. And then outside of Block A, there is 14 caskets. And then you go into Block B, and you see where others were kept in these tiny, tiny, tiny rooms. Not rooms, blocked off sections. And they're small, and you can't stretch out in them. You can't do much, and they're chained up the whole day anyway. And you also get to see the instruments and the chains that prisoners were kept in. You get to see the photos, because every time someone came in, a photo was taken of them from the front and from the side. And they're there, and the Khmer Rouge never got rid of their evidence. They didn't have time. So everything is there. And there's so much more I could talk about. Tuol Sleng S21 was a school, and now it is a genocide museum, and it's there to teach the world what happened. There is more. I recommend the documentaries. There's some very good documentaries on YouTube. The reason I talk about this is not just because of this book that I've been reading, but when I was there, I got to meet... out of everyone that went to what was S21, there was only a couple of survivors. In one book it says 7, in another book it said more, but I've been reading the survivors' journeys. I finished this one. I met each of them. I met the ones that are still alive. I first read this one. I met Chum Mey. Chum Mey. I can give you a photo. And it gives you pictures at the back. And it gives you the pictures. And in this one, you have a testimony. When they were Chum Mey was for 12 days, 12 nights. And he eventually gave a confession that was written down. This confession is about 20 pages. And I can't... It took me a couple of days to read just the confession. The other part of the book I could get through very quickly, but the confession, just how they twist the words of the people and how the cadres, the Khmer cadres, would twist the words of who they were twisting and eventually get them to confess. The survivors all were saved by a skill, or they were. One is the child that was born into S21. But Chum Mey was able to fix typewriters. He tried and he could do it. So typewriters were really needed by the Khmer cadres to write the reports and the confessions. And that's what saved him. And the confession, it just twists his words. Because you read his story first. You read from his childhood to everything. You read through everything. Eventually you read the confession and you think the words have been screwed so much and it's hard to read it. But I thank whoever wrote this. I thank the people that wrote this because the world needs to know. I bought this at the Genocide Museum. You can buy these at the Genocide Museum. They're $10 each and it's worth every dollar. You get to meet them, you get a photo with them, okay, you get a signed book, but you get to learn their story and you get to support the museum. You get to support them. I met many Cambodians when I was in Cambodia, obviously, and I met one at the War Museum who told me and another guy his story. I'm currently reading this one. I'm maybe 10 pages from the end. This one, Tuol, he survived because he could paint, and he was able to paint the most realistic version of Pol Pot that he could, which saved his life. He also painted Lenin, Karl Marx, Stalin, I think, and Mao Zedong. And he talks about not being able to forgive, but talks about how he wants future generations to understand. And then I have 3 others which I have not yet read. One which is the photographer, the one that took the photos. A daughter of a victim. And this one, the boy that was born at S21. So when I finish reading those, I will tell you more about them. But so far, this book is really good at laying out the political structure and societal structure. And these two are really good to have that eyewitness testimony. So, if you get the chance, go to Cambodia, go see this, because your eyes are opened by stuff like this. And this is how the world will learn. I hope enjoy may be the wrong word. I hope you found something from this. I hope that you learned something from this, or something was inspired in you. And if you want to hear more about my trip to Cambodia or something, please let me know. I did other things outside of going to see these places, but I felt obviously sharing what I did was relevant. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for taking the time. and I hope from this we can learn.